Alright, here we go. It's time to delve into the 2025 version of the Dungeon Master's Guide. Kind of late to the party because it took me a while to be able to pick this up and everything, but so that's why instead of talking about it, I'll do a usual flip through so people can actually get an idea of what's in this. So, as you can see on here, I actually got the alternative, the alt cover, and that's for instance, the original cover. So we got our table of contents like usual. So this one really isn't much. You will see it isn't really much different than the original 2014 version of the DM guide. Again, these versions, like the 2025 versions of these books, is akin to like a 3.5 if you harken back to third edition, when like a third edition came back out in the early 2000s, 4 or 5, maybe 6 years later. I'm thinking it's like 4 or 5 years after 3.5 came out, kind of like an update to that version. So this is, in essence, is like the same kind of concept. It's like 5.5 type of deal. So it kind of follows the same basic instruction. So the whole concept of this is like, hey, look, do I get this or do I get the 2014 version? Personally, I would say you could do either or. You don't necessarily need to get both unless like you're one of those people that I have to get everything. I would say if you're DM and you're kind of tight for money and you have to make a decision, get one or the other. If you do have say the 2014 version of the Player's Handbook, I would say for continuity purpose, get the 2014 version of the DM guide. Or if you're someone who's brand new and just picked up the most recent version of the Player's Handbook, go ahead and pick up this one. So like I said, you kind of have that continuity and everything. So you're not necessarily kind of have the 2 extra steps to research and kind of do those tweaks and stuff that an updated version, like in this case good old 5.5, would let you do. So but the whole overall concept is the same in that this is the DM guide and this is for dungeon masters to be able to, in a sense, go deeper into the game and everything. So each chapter delves even deeper into the actual game and how as a DM you can run it and everything. It gives you a lot of additional information. Now I'm always going to I'm probably always going to say all you need is the Player's Handbook, because you can kind of get away as a DM with sure, it does a lot of more legwork and everything, but you can get away with just using that and everything. So as we go through these chapters and everything, kind of do a quick flip through, you'll get at least a basic understanding, okay, so this is what this book is all about, in case you want to take it a step further and not necessarily have to do all that extra legwork that you would probably miss with a good core rule book like this with hundreds of pages of stuff. So definitely chock full of information. So players, definitely get a Player's Handbook. DMs, yes, I said you pretty much only need the Player's Handbook to play. But as a DM, something like this and the Monsters Manual would make your job a whole lot easier in the end, because yes, you're going to have to do a lot more reading, but in the end, that legwork is reduced and everything. So that way you don't necessarily have to shoot from the hip. You don't have to necessarily wing it. But hey, to each his own. So you could very well be the DM that could wing it, shoot from the hip, and everyone has a good time. So that's the whole point of it, is having a good time with this. Now, this is just information for the DM to be able to run things smoother, in a general term and everything, because you can always homebrew or make stuff up as you go, depending on your table and everything. So this is just, at the end, this is ultimately just in a sense a tool for the dungeon master to help them along running the game a lot smoother. Well, it's definitely valuable. I would say necessary. Like I said, you could get away with the Player's Handbook, and I'm probably going to become Mr. Redundant saying that over the course of these videos and stuff. But the whole point of these flip throughs is to showcase okay, yeah, here's something in case you want to take the step and yeah, maybe I've progressed through a starter set or or starter box or whatever. We've got the Player's Handbook and we've ran a campaign with that, and I kind of want to take the next step and everything. So this way, with this flip through, you kind of have a good, at least general idea of okay, so this is what's in it and everything. So that way you can get a good idea like of what you're getting for this book and everything. So kind of going to quickly go through this, just kind of as like I said, a flip through the showcase. And of course, good old Minsk from the original Baldur's Gate, probably one of like my favorite characters from that game. Good old You Point, I Punch. So he's still an iconic character almost 30 years later after it came out and everything. So as far I have yet, I'm going to be sacrilege saying like I have yet to play Baldur's Gate 3, and like I've heard that he actually does make an appearance in there. So probably one of the only characters to make an appearance in all 3 Baldur's Gate and everything. So yeah, like I said, sacrilege. You guys can probably come after me in the comments, like how dare I not play Baldur's Gate 3? Like for me, it's more of lack of time and everything. So now like we actually got like the Greyhawk set in here. Like and it shows like for city location, the actual city of Greyhawk, which is like in the land of Oerth, in like the campaign set of Greyhawk. Now, Forgotten Realms is pretty much like the flagship campaign setting of 5th edition. Greyhawk was like kind of like the campaign, like a flagship campaign of 3rd edition. So again, to each his own. So like I have yet to play in like a Greyhawk set myself. I have played in like Forgotten Realms, and so of course I wouldn't mind getting into this and everything. So, but here's like a map of like the Greyhawk itself, and of course there's so many different campaign settings that it's kind of like it takes like forever to kind of get through them all. And unless you're lucky enough to have enough free time to be able to like get into multiple groups and run different campaigns and stuff. And so as you can see here now, we're starting to get into the plains and everything. So not necessary, because like a lot of times you're going to be like kind of anchored to the material plane, but like this gives you information in case you do kind of venture out, or like in case you do bring the angels and demons and like stuff from the outer realms or the planescape or whatever into your campaign. So it gives you information on that, like to be able to kind of like pivot easier. So as you can see, we got a flying ship like here, and like this one's mentioned Eberron, which is a kind of like the steampunk version campaign of D&D. And yet another one I have yet to get into that it would be kind of cool to play in, but like hopefully one of these days like be able to get into it and everything. So yeah, everyone's favorite, good old treasure. Like how much like gold do we get? Just as like do we level up now? So it gives you good old tables on just pretty much all the treasures, magic items, and armor, and like artifacts and stuff that you can like use in your campaign. So this is like a quick showcase of like all the stuff that you can use in your campaign. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to, but like it gives you an idea of like what you can use. So we're kind of getting close to like the end of the book, and of course it does mention the deck of many things, which like I do have previous videos on that, so like go ahead and check that out as well. So now we get further into the actual magical items, as I kind of try and quickly go through the rest of this to kind of tie this all together with these magic items. And as you can see, this chapter, like the ones before, is kind of like in depth, because as the player characters would say, they always love getting stuff and everything. So yeah, we flip through like kind of the odds and ends stuff that people can use. That of course, the popular ones are weapons and armor and spell scrolls and rods and staves and spell books and stuff like that. But you could come up with probably just about anything for your magical items and stuff that could, like, as long as it fits your campaign and everything. So coming to the end of this chapter, as like I said, you can see how in depth this chapter is. Probably takes up most of the good chunk of the book at least. Good old tables for that, for the relics and stuff, and then good old bastions, fortresses and stuff, like kind of like a home base for the characters. Gives you an idea on how to do that and stuff. As far as I recall, there really isn't much in the 2014 version of it, but like on that, so it gives you book paper for like a table for that, a sheet to be able to print out and stuff, and then like we got actual like getting into like different types of villains and important NPCs that you can use for your characters. And of course, Vecna Eva Ruin recently came out in like the last year or so, and we got good old like dungeons, pre-made dungeons that you can use as a DM, and which again helps you remove like quite a bit of the legwork. All right, there we go. Last of them, and then getting into the index. And what's cool, as you can see, is this this version actually comes with a map of campaign setting of Greyhawk as it's upside down, so be able to kind of like hand that out as my cat's getting into something. Hey, you're getting into my cat's dumping his water like usual, so that's that noise back there. So, and on the flip side, you actually get like the sense of like the actual city of Greyhawk. So that's what kind of what's cool is that like you actually get like a map of the Greyhawk series. So I guess this one they're trying to promote like a Greyhawk. So that's the good old Dungeon Master guide for the 2025 version. So like as you can see, again, I have the actual like alternative cover on it with like the Spider Queen Lolth herself. So, and like I'm going to reiterate, like I said earlier, if you have the if you're able to get maybe the 2014 version at like a yard sale or something, for continuity purposes, I would say if you're looking to pick up the Dungeon Master guide, go with the 2014 version. Now, you don't necessarily need to buy like the 2014 version of both the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master Guide, and the Monster Manual, and then come out and get these new ones and everything. You don't necessarily, personally, you might be wasting your money if you get both versions and everything. But if you're someone who's just starting out, it's like you could go either or. And I would say, with these being the most recent like updates and most recent version of it, if you're just starting out, I would say go with these and everything. So this is just the kind of showcase like the new version, like, hey, look, this is what you're getting and everything. As a player, you probably won't need this and everything, but as a DM, again, I'm probably going to beat this to death, saying like you probably can get away with just the PHP, but as a DM, this would be an invaluable guide along with the Monster Manual, which I will be going over next. So here's the 2025 version of the good old Dungeon Master's Guide.